The moment my phone buzzed with the words, "front hallway motion," I knew something in my life had already shifted. I was sitting at my friend Ruth's kitchen table, halfway through a cup of cooling coffee. When the alert appeared, I remember smiling to myself. I had asked my daughter-in-law to check the house once while I was gone. I assumed it was that, or a package, or nothing at all. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Her Trust Channel team, based on real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. I tapped the notification without thinking. The camera feed opened, and there she was. Sloane Prescott stood in my hallway like she had every right to be there. Shoes off, purse tossed on the console table my husband built with his own hands. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't cautious. She was laughing. Then I saw the man behind her. He was tall, unfamiliar, pulling a suitcase across my hardwood floor. Not a gym bag, not a backpack, a rolling suitcase. He angled it toward the stairs, paused, and said, "So this is the room, the big one." Sloane replied easily, "It makes sense." I felt my fingers tighten around my phone. "That's Ellie's room," he said. Sloane waved it off, not for long. I turned the volume up, my heart steady in a way that surprised me. I am Eleanor Prescott. I am 69 years old. I have lived in that house in Portland for more than 3 decades. I know the sound of every floorboard. I know when something does not belong. "She won't freak out?" the man asked. Sloane laughed again. Not nervous, not uncertain, amused. "She's old." She said, "Once he's moved in, she'll just accept it." He chuckled. "You're sure I'm positive?" she replied. "She hates conflict." I lowered the phone onto the table, then picked it back up. I needed to hear it again, not because I doubted what she said, but because of how she said it. This was not a mistake. This was not panic or desperation. This was confidence. They were not breaking into my home. They were counting on my silence. And in that moment, as I watched them move through my life like the ending had already been agreed upon, I understood something with perfect clarity. If they were that certain I would accept it, then they had never really known me at all. I replayed the footage, not once, again and again. Sloane moved through my house with direction, not curiosity, not hesitation. She didn't look around. She pointed. She gestured. She decided. "Put that one upstairs," she said. "Not the guest room, the other one, the big one," the man asked. "Yes, his room, his..." He nodded and rolled the suitcase toward the stairs without asking whose house it was, without checking, without pausing. He moved like someone who had already been told yes. I zoomed in on the corner of the screen. There was a clipboard on my dining table. My dining table. Pages clipped neatly. A pen resting on top, like it had been placed there on purpose. "What about the closet?" he asked. "It's pretty full." "She won't notice," Sloane replied. "Just move her stuff to the other side. Her stuff." My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. My chest didn't tighten. There was no rush of panic, no disbelief clawing its way up my throat. What I felt was stillness, the kind that comes when something finally makes sense. "This stays," she said, tapping the wall near the staircase. "That goes." "You're sure she's okay with this?" he asked again. Slower this time. Sloane sighed, like he was being tedious. "She's fine. She always is." He smiled. "You know her better than I do." "That's the problem." She said, "I know exactly how she works." I lowered the volume and watched without sound. He opened drawers. She checked her phone. He measured the wall with his hands. She nodded approval. Nothing about this was rushed. Nothing about it felt emotional. This wasn't desperation. This was execution. I had spent years excusing small things, telling myself I was being sensitive, that I was lucky to have help, that I should be grateful my son had married someone who took initiative. This wasn't initiative. This was a schedule. I could have called. I could have interrupted. I could have demanded an explanation that would turn into apologies and backtracking and lies delivered with just enough sincerity to confuse me. Instead, I did something I had never done before. I stayed quiet. I let them keep moving. I let them keep talking. I let them believe the most dangerous thing a person can believe about someone else. That I wouldn't do anything at all. I didn't see the pattern all at once. It came to me in pieces, spread across years, softened by tone and timing. You don't really need all this space anymore, Sloan had said once. Standing in my kitchen with a polite smile. It must feel lonely rattling around in a house this big. Marcus laughed it off. She likes her space. He told her, then to me, quietly. She's just worried about you. Mom, another time. It was about safety. Those stairs are steep, Sloan said, her voice careful. If you ever fell, no one would know right away. I've lived with those stairs for decades. I replied, I know, she said gently. I just think ahead. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. She means well. Every comment came wrapped in concern. Every suggestion sounded reasonable. Every moment I felt uneasy. I told myself I was being dramatic. You could always stay with us if it gets too much. Sloan offered one evening, just until you figure things out. Figure what out? Marcus was always there to smooth it over. She's practical, he'd say. She plans. You know how she is. And I did know, or I thought I did. What I didn't recognize was how often the word temporary had been applied to me without being spoken aloud. Temporary independence. Temporary space. Temporary control. She won't mind. Sloan said once, reaching for a cabinet without asking. She's flexible. Marcus nodded. Mom doesn't get attached to things. I should have corrected him then. I should have said, I get attached to respect. But it was easier to smile. Easier to keep the peace. Easier to believe that love meant accommodation. Watching the footage now, hearing her say his room, I understood something that hurt more than the betrayal itself. They hadn't suddenly decided I was in the way. They had been preparing for my removal for years. The house wasn't the first boundary they crossed. It was simply the last one I could no longer ignore. And as that realization settled in, slow and heavy, I understood why their confidence hadn't surprised me. It had been taught. By my silence. I opened my banking app and didn't scroll at first. I just stared at the screen, my thumb hovering, already knowing what I would find. When I finally moved, the entries came fast transfers, payments, covered balances, quiet rescues disguised as favors. Just until Marcus gets paid. Sloan had said the first time. Rent came up short. Marcus called later that night. I'll pay you back, Mom, I promise. He didn't. A few months after that, it was a car repair, then childcare for a few weeks, then a credit card bill they said had been a mistake. Each time, the same rhythm. You're saving us, Sloan would say. You're the only one we can ask, Marcus added. You know we'd do it for you, they both insisted. I kept scrolling. I started writing numbers down on a legal pad, not trusting my eyes anymore. 2,000 here, 3,000 there, 800 every month for half a year. A sudden 5,000 to keep the lights on. Groceries I paid for when their cards were declined. Furniture I bought because Sloan said the kids needed stability. By the time my hand cramped, the total sat at the bottom of the page. Heavy and undeniable, more than $50,000, I said it out loud, alone in the room. More than $50,000. The number didn't feel shocking so much as clarifying. This wasn't generosity. It was dependence engineered slowly, carefully, until saying no felt cruel. I opened my messages next. I searched Sloane's name. Then Marcus's. Screenshots piled up dates. Requests. Gratitude that grew shorter with time. Can you help us just this once? Family doesn't keep score. We'll figure it out later. Later never came. I saved everything. Receipts. Transfers. Conversations. I didn't organize them emotionally. I organized them chronologically. Facts first. Feelings could wait. When I finished, I created a folder on my desktop and named it Evidence. No italics, no emotion, just truth. They had needed me constantly, financially, logistically, emotionally, and yet, watching them on my security camera, planning my displacement with such ease, I understood the final insult. I wasn't being replaced because I was unnecessary. I was being replaced because I had already given them everything they thought they could take. I returned to Portland without telling anyone. No calls, no messages. I parked a few blocks away and opened the app again, my phone resting steady in my hand. Caleb was inside my house like he had always lived there. He set boxes down without reading the labels, as if he already knew where everything belonged. He opened drawers. He tested light switches. He carried an armful of shirts up the stairs and said, almost casually, "I'll take the left side of the closet." Sloane didn't answer right away. She was on her phone. Then she looked up and said, "That's fine. She doesn't use all of it anyway." He laughed. "She's minimalist. She likes to think she is." Sloane replied, "They spoke about me the way people talk about furniture they plan to move later. Not with anger, with certainty." Caleb paused at the top of the stairs. "What about the desk in here?" "Leave it," Sloane said. "It's heavy. We'll deal with it after." I switched cameras. The front door opened, and Marcus stepped inside. My son. He hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Then he closed the door behind him and stood there, hands in his pockets. "You're early," Sloane said. "Traffic cleared," Marcus replied. He looked around, then at Caleb. "So, you're settling in?" Caleb nodded. "Pretty much." Marcus didn't argue. He didn't ask why. He didn't say my name. "You're okay with this?" Caleb asked him. Marcus exhaled. "It's already happening." Sloane crossed the room and kissed Marcus's cheek. "We talked about this. It's better this way." Marcus nodded once. That was all. I felt something click into place. Not heartbreak, confirmation. This wasn't Sloane acting alone. This wasn't a secret affair spilling into bad decisions. This was shared knowledge, shared silence, shared benefit. I didn't close the app. I didn't look away. I watched Caleb hang his clothes. I watched Sloane rearrange my cabinets. I watched Marcus sit on my couch and say nothing. They moved more confidently with each hour, less cautious, less quiet. I let them, because comfort makes people careless, and careless people reveal everything. I stayed parked where I was, unseen, listening to them talk as if the house had already agreed to their plans. They believed I was still far away. They believed I would come home later and accept what they had already decided. And because they believed that, they kept going. I didn't go to my house first. I went to the locksmith. "I need everything changed." I said, "Front door, back door, garage." He glanced at me. Today, yes, there was no drama in it. No shaking hands, just a transaction. By the time he finished, every old key had been reduced to a memory. I didn't test the locks. I trusted the sound of them clicking into place. Next, I drove straight to Judith Hale's office. I had met her years ago. When my husband and I updated our will, she looked exactly the same. Calm, precise, unimpressed by theatrics. "I need you to tell me what my options are," I said. "Not what feels fair, what's legal. Judith didn't interrupt while I explained. She listened. Then she said, "You're the sole owner of the property. I know. You did not give permission for anyone to move in. No. And you have documentation. Yes." She nodded. "Then this is not a family disagreement. This is unauthorized occupancy." She slid a document across the desk. "This is a no trespass notice, once served. It's enforceable. But timing matters." "How so?" "If you serve it too early," she said, "they claim confusion. If you serve it after they've established intent, there's no room to rewrite the story." I understood immediately. "So I wait," I said. "You observe," Judith corrected. "You document, and you don't interfere." I left her office with copies in my bag and clarity in my chest. Back in my car, I opened the security app again. Caleb was on the phone now, pacing my living room. "Yeah," he said, "we're basically in." Sloane laughed. "She won't be back for days. I saved the clip. I saved everything. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't confront Marcus or demand explanations that would turn into rehearsed apologies. I let the cameras run. I let the conversations happen. I let the assumptions harden, because the trap wasn't about catching them off guard. It was about letting them speak freely. The more comfortable they became, the more certain they sounded. And certainty leaves fingerprints. By the time I turned the car around, I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready, and all they had to do was keep believing I wouldn't say a word. The truck pulled up just after morning traffic thinned. 2 men jumped out, clipboard in hand, already moving with the practiced rhythm of people who believed the job was routine. "Hold on," I said, stepping into view. "Stop unloading." They froze, glancing at each other. One of them looked past me toward the house. "Are you—" "I'm the homeowner," I said. "Nothing comes off that truck until I say so." Sloane appeared in the doorway, her smile forming too quickly. "Ellie," she said, voice bright, almost relieved. "You're back early." "I am," I replied. She walked toward me, hands open. "There's been a misunderstanding. We're just helping organize a few things." Caleb followed her, shoulders squared. "Ma'am, we were told this was all approved." "I didn't approve it," I said, "and I didn't invite you." Caleb's tone shifted. "Look, let's not make this complicated. We're already halfway in." "That's the complication," I said. Sloane laughed lightly, the way she always did when she wanted to sound reasonable. "You know how stressful transitions can be. We thought we'd make it easier for you. For me." I repeated, "Yes," she said, "so you wouldn't have to deal with the chaos." One of the movers cleared his throat. "Who should we listen to?" Caleb answered before I could. "Me. I hired you." I turned to him. "You hired them to move into a house you don't own." His jaw tightened. "You don't need to get hostile." "I'm not hostile," I said. "I'm present." By then, porch doors had opened along the street. Mrs. Klein, from across the way, stood with her arms folded, watching. A man 2 houses down paused his dog walk and stayed. Sloane noticed. Her voice softened. "Ellie, can we talk inside?" "No," I said. "We're fine right here." Caleb tried again, lowering his voice. "Let's keep this calm. We can sort it out." "It is calm," I said. "That's why everyone can hear it." The movers waited, eyes flicking between us. Sloane's smile faltered as she realized she was performing without control of the stage. I took a step closer to the truck. "Nothing moves," I said again, "not until this is settled." And for the first time since I'd seen them on my camera, neither of them knew what to say next. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I reached into my bag and took out the folder, thick with paper, and held it where everyone could see. "This is what you said. I told Sloane." She opened her mouth, already forming denial. I didn't let her start. I tapped my phone once and let the audio play. Her voice carried clearly across the driveway, light and amused. Once he's moved in, she'll just accept it. A ripple moved through the small crowd. Sloane's smile collapsed. Caleb turned sharply toward her. You said that wasn't recorded. I didn't think. You didn't think. I repeated and kept going. I held up a screenshot. This is you, I said to Caleb, rolling a suitcase up my stairs. Time-stamped. 2 days ago. I flipped the page. This is the invoice from the movers. Your name, your phone number. You paid the deposit. Caleb's face darkened. That doesn't mean it means intent, I said. It means you weren't visiting. Marcus stepped forward. Mom, can we talk inside for a second? I didn't look at him. No. Please, he said. This is getting out of hand. It's getting accurate, I replied. I turned another page. This is a text message you sent. I told Sloane. You wrote, we'll explain after she gets back. Once everything's in. She won't kick us out. Sloane's breath came fast. That's out of context. There is no context, I said. There is only sequence. Caleb's voice rose. You're making this sound criminal. It is unauthorized occupancy, I said calmly. That's not my language. That's the law. He laughed once. Sharp and ugly. You think a stack of paper scares me? It already does, I said, and nodded toward his hands. They were shaking. Marcus reached for my arm. Mom. I stepped back. Don't. Silence settled. Heavy and unmistakable. No one interrupted it. Not the movers. Not the neighbors. Not Sloane, who stared at the folder like it had betrayed her. I closed it slowly and held it against my chest. What remained after that was not confusion or doubt. It was the truth, standing in the open, with nowhere left to hide. Sloane reached for tears first. They came fast and loud. Her voice breaking as she stepped closer. Ellie, please. This is getting blown out of proportion. We can fix this. I didn't move. Then the tone shifted. You're humiliating us, she said sharply. People are watching my... I know, I said. Caleb tried next, lowering his voice, stepping into my line of sight like a negotiation. Look, just let us stay one night. One. We'll figure something out tomorrow. No, I said, his jaw clenched. You don't have to do this. I do, I replied. I just don't have to argue. Marcus finally spoke again, his voice tight. Mom, can we please take this inside? This doesn't need to be public. It became public when you made it physical. I said, furniture does that. Sloane's tears stopped. Her eyes hardened. You're choosing a house over family. I'm choosing boundaries over manipulation, I said. One of the movers cleared his throat. Ma'am, he said to me, do you want us to reload? Yes, I said. Everything that isn't mine goes back on the truck. Sloane spun toward them. Wait. You can't just... They can't, I said. They work for the person who owns the house. Caleb scoffed. You think this ends well for you? It ends, I said. That's enough. The movers began lifting boxes, reversing what they had done. Each scrape of cardboard against the pavement felt deliberate, final. Marcus watched, helpless. Mom, he said quietly, we'll remember this. I hope you do. I replied. Sloane tried once more, softer now. Ellie, please, I met her eyes. Stop. They did. The truck filled. The doors closed. The street stayed silent. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't threatened anyone. I had simply stopped making space for them. And that was when they finally understood. The consequences didn't arrive with shouting or sirens. They came quietly, the way real consequences usually do. Judith Hale called me 2 days later. The notice has been served. She said, If they return without written permission, it becomes a criminal matter. The movers submitted statements. The invoice trail is clear. I thanked her and hung up. That was all. No celebration. No relief. Just finality. Marcus tried once more. He came alone, standing on the porch like a guest who finally understood he was won. "Mom," he said, voice low. This didn't have to go this far. It went exactly as far as it needed to. I replied. Sloan didn't come. Caleb didn't either. What reached me instead were Whisper's workplace rumors. A landlord backing out. Invitations drying up. Credibility is fragile when it's built on someone else's silence. I met Judith again the following week. We adjusted my estate plan. Access was restricted. Authority clarified. Every assumption corrected in ink. When she slid the final papers across the desk, she said, "This protects you. It reflects me." I answered and signed. At home, I restored what mattered without anger. I put my books back where they belonged. I rehung the photograph they had moved. I replaced nothing in a hurry. I reclaimed on my own timeline. Later that evening, I poured tea and sat at the table my husband and I once argued over paint colors for. I thought about the lesson I'd earned the hard way. Kindness without boundaries doesn't make you generous. It makes you available. And availability invites people who take until there's nothing left but the bill. I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stopped shielding others from the results of their choices. That shift changed everything. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like the video and share it with someone who might need it. Leave a comment if you've ever had to draw a line you were taught not to draw, or subscribe for more stories about choosing dignity over silence. I locked the door that night and listened to the sound settle into the house. It was familiar, solid, mine. What stayed wasn't the house alone. What stayed was my name on it, my voice in it, and the certainty that I would never confuse peace with permission again.